সুপ্রিয় দর্শক সবাইকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি TBN 24 টেলিভিশন আয়োজিত বিশেষ অনুষ্ঠান TBN স্পেশাল। আমি হাবিব রহমান আছি আপনাদের সাথে। আপনারা সবাই জানেন আগামী মঙ্গলবার অর্থাৎ নভেম্বর 7 ইজ জেনারেল ইলেকশন। আজকে এই অনুষ্ঠানটি এই জেনারেল ইলেকশন ঘিরেই করব আমরা, এবং এই অনুষ্ঠানে আমি একজন বিশেষ অতিথিকে আমন্ত্রণ জানিয়েছি, তার সাথে কিছুক্ষণের মধ্যে পরিচয় করে দিব। কিন্তু ইলেকশনটা হচ্ছে আপনার টিউসডে অর্থাৎ মঙ্গলবার নভেম্বর 7। এই ইলেকশনে কেন এটি গুরুত্বপূর্ণ, কেন আপনারা অংশ নেবেন এবং কোথায় গেলে ইনফরমেশনগুলো পাবেন, এবং এটিতে অংশ নিলে আমাদের বাংলাদেশি কমিউনিটি বা আমাদের যারা আছে সাউথ এশিয়ানভুক্ত তাদের আমাদের কী লাভ, সেই সমস্ত বিষয়ে আলোচনা করব। এবং এই আলোচনায় আজকে আমার সাথে যোগ দিচ্ছেন ফাতিমা বারিয়াব। ফাতিমা, থ্যাংক ইউ for joining. So a little introduction to our audience about you. Fatima is a very young, as you can see, candidate for City Council District 25, which is Queens, Jacksonite especially. We'll hear more from her. So Fatima, thank you for coming and making time. I know it's a busy time for you. How do you feel?
Thank you for having me first and foremost. I'm very obliged, and I feel very confident running for City Council because it's not my first time running,
Great.
But I know that one day we'll get there.
One day we'll get there, and
Yes.
hopefully that day will be soon. But let's, start with some basic things. Who are you? You look pretty young. Why you're? What makes you? Why do you decide? How did you decide to run for city council? So let's start with who are you and what you have done as far as social work and other works are concerned.
I've done a lot. Since a young age. I started my first nonprofit organization, Suki New York, at the young age of 13, 14 years old alongside my father. We managed Diversity Plaza for a long time, over a decade, and it became our brainchild of making sure that we integrate and unify the diversity of New York City into one happy community, one happy nation. And through that effort, I was able to meet and harbor relationships with not only politicians, but community leaders and also very grassroots level people. And I learned that a lot of the concerns that I have, most other people that live in New York City also share. And that can be sanitation, that can be education, it could be the rising crime. And it just, the list goes on. And what I've realized is that the common person has these issues, and so do I. So why not advocate and make a change? Because in City Council, we don't see a person who reflects our voice at the government level. And I want to make that change. I want to use my past experience to unify not only our community, but also to unify and bring ourselves to an elevated level. That will help not only protect our democracy by including our voices, but also give our future generations the right and the path that will allow them to step into politics. I know that a lot of people shy away from politics, in our community especially, in the South Asian community, but it's very important. It paves the way for how our community and how our future New York will look like.
Now, you're born in Queens, raised in Queens, you live in Jackson Heights, you went to schools here, so you know the environment very, very well. You know the people, most of the people probably know you too. What are the things that you see in this Jackson Heights, Woodside, Sunnyside area that you think are problematic, that you think are the issues that nobody's working on, that you need to actually bring it to the focus, and those things need working?
Absolutely. I think that my top agenda right now is to make sure that there is less crime in the city.
Right.
I think that our communities suffer the brunt of a lot of the injustice that happens. And I think it's because no matter how much we rise economically,
right.
Our issues with feeling safe and secure in the city are undermined. And I will say that the public school education is not helping us prosper because it does not pave the way for our kids to learn what it means to be an American while also keeping their heritage intact. It's very important to keep your heritage intact because if you don't know where you're from, you're not going to be able to excel in your future life.
That's an important aspect. Explain that to me a little bit more, because being born here,
Right.
growing up here, going through a school system, public school system, who know things better than, other than you. Because the challenges that you faced in public school, the challenges your parents faced, and most parents do, are the issues that it needs to be addressed.
Right, absolutely.
And most parents would not know for two reasons. One, they may not be as involved with their kids as much they should, or they don't have the time because they are trying to make ends meet. The other reason could be the kids coming back home not saying what is happening to her or him in the school. So let's talk about that part a little bit.
Absolutely. I went to New York City public school my whole life.
Right.
And I would say that I have faced an identity crisis. Okay, I'm South Asian, I'm Muslim, I have a certain dynamic at home, but when I go to school, it's very different. It's almost the opposite. The ideals, the values are very different. And so it can be hard to corroborate that for a young kid. And somehow, some ways, that also leads to a lot of our kids becoming rebellious, not wanting to keep their heritage alive. And I think that that's not right. I think that we need to create spaces in schools where they feel comfortable keeping their heritage alive, and also not only their heritage, but like your religion is also important, your values are also important. And I think that kids in school shouldn't be made to feel like that is a reason for them to get bullied. I think a lot of kids get bullied about this in school, and it affects their education, it affects how they perform in school. And I think that these conversations are supposed to happen because it is happening day to day for many people. This is a lot of people's reality. And I think that it's very important that we invest in education, we make sure that our communities have that voice, our parents have that outlet. You have to trust the person that you're talking to. And a lot of times people don't trust because the other person doesn't look like them, and they also don't understand their issue. It's a lot of ignorance, and there's a lot of antipathy. People don't understand you, so how will they perform what you want them to perform for you? So I think that our kids really do need that safe space. And of course, I will say this as a Muslim, there is one thing as being liberal on political issues, but there are a lot of conversations happening in school that are against the moral fabric of being Muslim. And I think that we need to speak out where we don't feel comfortable. We don't need to be ignored and shunned away.
And I think what you just said is very, very important, that there are your belief system, that's actually there are moral obligations, and that is for the good, that's not for the bad, but you should know it. Somebody have to tell you. Some people in your house or your guidance or in school level or your city council level should open that window or the avenue for you to feel free to talk about. Because you talked about ethnicity. What commonality we have with a German Irish American? No, there is no commonality, except we are all American. But if you want to connect with that person, the food will not match, the culture will not match, the language will not match, because they have a different way of communication. The way we do it, it's a gap. One day that gap will lessen. But however, at the moment we have this crisis. Let's talk about the election. So what you said is, if you get elected, I'm sure this is one of those things that you're going to be working on. Let's talk about election. The election is, and I think people are going to see it on the screen when you are talking. Why you are running for this election?
I'm running for city council because I believe that we need to make sure that not only our city is intact, but we also need to think big. There is over $100 billion budget of New York City alone. That is just New York City. New York State is a separate ball game. And I think that when the Muslim community, especially the Bangladeshi community, is contributing so much to this budget, we contribute a huge percentage of that budget, whether we're paying taxes, whether we're paying fines, whatever it may be. Why don't we have a say in what is happening in the city politics? And I think that is one of my main motivation points for running for city council.
Okay, so let's talk about this. What are the challenges you are facing while you are running as a candidate? You are very young.
Right.
You are inexperience, some would say.
Yes.
Right? And on top of that, icing on the cake, you are a female.
Right.
What are the challenges you face, and what would you tell your viewers?
There are many challenges when you're running for even a small seat like city council. It's not so small because although we have a democratic system in place, a lot of our policies relating to elections are not so democratic. And I will explain this. For instance, there are a lot of endorsements that happen. There are a lot of party politics that come into play. So a lot of the stuff that happens is not organic when it comes to elections. And I think that that's one of the biggest challenges you really need to build. And it's not a walk in the park. It's not something that happens overnight. It takes time, it takes commitment, and it's not for everybody. But I will say this, if you support me, you are technically supporting your own kids and your own future generations, because it will get easier. Like you said, we'll shorten that gap. There is a huge gap right now. It's very hard to get elected. It's very hard to have your voice heard. People, even politicians, kind of turn a blind eye. They don't feel comfortable with this narrative of first generation Americans trying to get into politics, because it's just totally unheard of.
That is so true. The establishment,
yes,
they don't like the first generation coming up and taking part in elections. You are one of the first generations, and obviously you will have the pushback. You know better than anybody else.
Absolutely.
We'll come back to this discussion. I have more questions on the elections and your topics, but we're taking a break. দর্শক, আমরা ছোট্ট একটি বিরতি নিচ্ছি। বিরতির পর এসে আরও কিছু প্রশ্ন আছে গুরুত্বপূর্ণ, সেটি তুলে ধরবো। কোথায় গেলে ভোটের ইনফরমেশন জানতে পারবেন, কোথায় গেলে ডিটেলস জানতে পারবেন, এবং কেন করবেন, সবই আলোচনা করব। নিচ্ছি ছোট্ট একটি বিরতি। বিরতির পর পুনরায় স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি টিবিএন স্পেশাল প্রোগ্রামে। আমার সাথে আছেন ফাতিমা বারিয়াব, সিটি কাউন্সিল ডিস্ট্রিক্ট 25 এর ক্যান্ডিডেট। তার সাথে আমরা বিভিন্ন রকম আলোচনা করছি। Okay, going back to these things, let's talk about election. Where people should go to find more information? Where can they look up for you? And what are the locations this election is taking place?
So you can go to vote.nyc to find your candidate information. You can find your election district, and you can also find the candidates running for city council in my district, including me. I hope you're voting for me if you're watching this. And you can also text me your questions directly at 718-500-4623. That is a textable hotline, and I will try to get back to you with any questions or concerns. You can find your poll site online at vote.nyc.
Right. And your elections main agendas are?
So my main agenda is education, zero tolerance for crime, and a clean and green New York City.
Clean and green New York City.
Yes.
And we have a little clip, because I want to show to share with our viewers how the city council is attached with mayor's office, and then the Queen's presidents, and how it trickles down to district council. Let's watch it.
Yeah.
Let's watch it. Can we watch the video, please?
This is Maria. Like many New Yorkers, she loves when her street opens up for community activities. But how does something like the Open Streets program get started? Everyone from the mayor to the city council plays a part. The road to Open Streets began with the mayor. The mayor manages city land. She can propose, veto, and enact laws. She proposes a budget for both the city and specific programs, and hires people to get the job done. The city council proposed a bill to expand the popular program. The city council consists of 51 members who propose and vote on bills. They represent neighborhoods across the city. The mayor agreed with the expansion, and the city council approved her budget. The approved plan went to the desk of the comptroller. The comptroller is like the city's financial advisor and accountant. She reviews the city's investments and finances. She looked at the numbers and discovered that Open Streets actually helped local businesses thrive. Each of New York's 5 boroughs has a president who listens and advocates on behalf of their local constituents and the issues they're facing. For example, how to make open streets more fair, accessible, and safe. The borough president can address these issues by appointing representatives to community boards or providing grants to organizations within their borough. The public advocate, not surprisingly, advocates on behalf of everyone in the city. He listens to any New York City resident and makes sure city agencies are responsive to our needs. So he made it easier to get permits for open streets and suggested that the initiative remain permanent. Maria's local offices helped her community keep open streets open for good. By voting, we get to decide on our elected leaders and, in turn, shape the future of the city we all call home. Get answers to your questions about local offices and candidates at nycvotes.org.
So, by voting, people get to decide who they want to represent them. That's one thing. And also, we saw how the city council is, from the mayor's office to the board president's office to district council office, and then you guys, if you are elected, I hope so.
Yeah.
Then you guys actually propose those local changes and approve or disapprove, or ask for more expansions and stuff like that.
Right.
So it is a very important function. Very important function. Now I know this is not a walk in the park.
Right.
How is your campaign going, and how hard it has been?
I would say that, and I'm just going to touch base with that video as well. We have multiple issues in the city that affect us, and just take into account the migrant crisis that has happened because of Biden's open door policy to a lot of immigrants, and how it's adversely affected a lot of the residents of New York City, because there are so many migrants coming in. We don't have the space, and we also don't have the economy for it. It's ruining our economy. It's ruining small businesses, because a lot of free stuff is being given away and people are taking advantage of it. And what is happening is that the mayor and the city council is deciding what is going to happen, and we don't have a say there. And I feel like the hardest thing is to watch this happen and to see that our people are sleeping, not voting. I think that you definitely need to go out and vote. If you want to, don't worry about who is running for president, because what matters is who is running for your city council, who is running for your local mayor's office, because that will impact your life directly. Because we have the power to say, hey, Biden, you're doing an awful job. We know you're doing an awful job, but don't let it affect our city. And it's very hard to see that every single day. There's decisions made in the city that we cannot do anything about. No matter what our opinion is, no matter what we think, it's not being taken into account, and it's affecting our lives very, very negatively. People are moving away from New York City. Rents are skyrocketing. Homeowners are very upset because there are people who don't pay rent. It's becoming increasingly hard to live in New York City. And I think that in order to endure economic opportunities for all, we need to have that say. I would encourage you to go out and vote. Don't think that your vote does not count. That is not true. Whoever told you that myth, it is not true at all. If you vote for me, I will definitely be a representative for you in City Hall.
You mentioned that the migrant crisis, you are blaming Biden and current administration of mayor's office as well. On an international level,
right?
Do you believe that the U.S. policy towards Israel is destabilizing the entire Middle East and the current conflict of Palestinians and Israelis?
Yes, I do believe that the U.S.'s current hand in what's happening in the Middle East will create more conflict. And not only that, as a Muslim, I feel that we already know the truth of the matter, and the fact that the U.S. is provoking such a matter to go further and killing innocent people, innocent kids.
Yeah.
I think that it is, I have no words. I'm speechless. I'm left speechless. I think that it's a grave mistake, and I don't stand for it. I am very pro-Palestine.
Yeah, many people I think will share the same views that you have. We're towards the end of the program. Any last thing that you would like to? I'm going to have you back again on a different program. But the people who are watching, your election is on Tuesday, November 7th. Mm-hmm. What do you want to tell your viewers?
I would love to tell my viewers that you have this weekend to go out and vote. You can go early vote in the Queens Public Library or the Queens Elks Lodge for me, or you can go find your poll site and you can vote on Tuesday, November 7th on Election Day. You'll have from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I think that if you go out and vote, think of it as an opportunity for you to perform an act of jihad. Why am I saying that? Because when you elect somebody who is sharing the same ideals as you, going against this establishment, going against everything that they believe that they want to project onto the world, it's very difficult. And I need your support to do that, and I need you to go out and vote, because only then can we protect the fundamental fabric of the Abrahamic faiths. And right now I see that a lot of it is in crisis, and it's in dire need of your support. And I think that your vote can enable us to get into a better position.
Fatima, Baryab, thank you for your time,
Yes.
especially during your busy campaigning schedule. I hope to see you around again, and all the best and good luck.
Thank you so much, Habib. Thank you for having me on here.
দর্শক, আপনারা এতক্ষণ শুনছিলেন ফাতিমা বারিয়াবের কথা। She is a candidate for City Council District 25. The election is on November 7th. We wish her all the best. আপনারা যেখানে থাকবেন ভোট দিতে ভুলবেন না। সবাই ভালো থাকবেন। শুভরাত্রি।
TBN 24 টেলিভিশন দেখতে আজই কল করুন 7187776556। লগ ইন করুন www.totalcablebd.com।
নিউ ইয়র্ক থেকে সম্প্রচারিত TBN 24 টেলিভিশন বিশ্বজুড়ে বাঙালির কণ্ঠস্বর।